And well, as wildfires continue to rage in parts of Australia, over 50,000 square kilometres of land have been consumed by the fire. There were over 95 fires burning in Australia over the weekend, out of which 48 continue to be not contained. Around 2,300 firefighters battled with the bushfires that showed no signs of abating. Authorities have told thousands of residents and tourists to evacuate a part of the Victoria city as temperatures continue to soar and winds are fanning the ongoing bushfires. A total fire ban is in place across the state and 5 emergency warnings have been issued in East Gippsland.
They've moved out of the forest. These emergency warnings, unfortunately yesterday, threatening the coastal townships were about half an hour ago. So, and calm and beautiful and balmy. But as far as Malakuta, they're on an alert now and have been.
The fires this season have consumed land area equivalent to more than 30 times the capital city of India. Acres of land burnt in Australia has also surpassed the record-breaking charred land in this year's Amazon rainforest. New South Wales is facing the worst of the bushfires this season. Over 68% of the lands burnt in Australia is in New South Wales. At least 9 people have died this season. In the past few years, a total of 2,800 square kilometres had burnt. But this season, over 34,000 square kilometres have already burnt, and it's just halfway into the season. Well, as the festive season has kicked in, the New South Wales Rural Fire Services has warned all residents to not conduct any fireworks for New Year's Eve. Few areas of New South Wales are under a total fire ban for today and tomorrow, and other cities have a potential ban that could be imposed. The authority has laid guidelines to follow in case of total ban of fireworks. Meanwhile, the iconic New Year's Eve fireworks in Sydney will go on as planned despite the wildfire crisis to show Australia's toughness. The City of Sydney Council gave a green light, although firefighters warned that the fireworks could be cancelled if catastrophic conditions are declared. The Deputy Premier of New South Wales, John Barilora, took to Twitter urging the government to cancel fireworks on New Year's Eve. He said, and I quote, "The risk is too high and we must respect our exhausted volunteers. If regional areas have had fireworks banned, then let's not have 2 classes of citizens," unquote. Volunteer firefighting has long been Australia's primary defence against this kind of crisis, but the intensity of this year's fire season has sparked a political debate over whether firefighters should be compensated for their time. Just yesterday, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison said that volunteer firefighters in New South Wales would be compensated with $4,000 if they spent more than 10 days on field this fire season.
This is a very prolonged fire season. This is putting additional demands on our firefighters in particular. And it means that the turnouts and the call-outs have been far more extensive than in previous years, going well and beyond and above what is normally expected of those who are engaged in volunteer service. And I've got to say, particularly when I've been outside the cities and seen the impact, particularly in rural communities, on farmers who are dealing with drought during the day and dealing with fires at night and through the afternoon.
So what is the reason behind the unprecedented bushfires in Australia this year? Well, for more on this, we're joined in by a scientist, Dr. Vanessa Pirota, live from Sydney. Well, first to you, Ms. Pirota, why is bushfire so severe in 2019? What really is the lessons being learned right now?
We know that the bushfire situation here in Sydney and especially around other parts of Australia is severe. 2019 seems to be a really terrible year for this. We're seeing droughts, we're seeing the land around us is really dry, and that in combination with dry heat and dry lightning is a big, big, scary thing for many of us Australians. And the fact that we're seeing so much of this in areas like Sydney, where we have smoke in our air every single day. Now, today was a pretty good day, I would consider, although we had the sun rising and we still have that very famous, the ominous sign of the apocalyptic kind of feeling of the bushfire smoke hanging around. And there has been some days where the bushfire smoke in Sydney in particular is just so severe. But that's only from a city perspective. People out there on the front line dealing with the fires, I take my hat off to all of the men and women fighting these fires. It's affecting them. People are losing houses. Animals, I should say, rather, I work on marine animals, but the mammals in Australia, we're losing a lot of animals, and it's terrible for everyone.
So also, what does Australia, or for that matter, the world, need to do to avoid this situation?
I don't think anyone holds the answer to trying to avoid bushfires, but what we do know is that the world is changing. The environment is changing and humans are predominantly driving that. We all know that. There's a science out there. Words like climate change and climate is a big buzzword for 2019. And it's true. The world is getting warmer. And this is probably primarily one of the main drivers for why we're seeing such extremes both in the northern and the southern hemisphere. But it's hoped that these bushfire crisis that we're seeing here in Australia does lessen. So those fireys working from around Australia and also those internationally brought in can have a bit of a break and can enjoy the Christmas season with their families.